In the crisp autumn of 2003, the small town of Clearwater, Wyoming, was shattered when 7 nuns vanished without a trace during a spiritual retreat in the Bighorn National Forest. Their absence left a wound that never healed, the town cloaked in a grief that lingered like morning fog. 2 decades later, in October 2023, Father Patrick Sullivan stands at the altar of St. Luke's Catholic Church, leading the annual memorial mass for the lost sisters, one of whom, Elizabeth Sullivan, was his own blood. The church glows under the kaleidoscope of stained glass windows, their colors dancing across the pews as sunlight streams through depictions of saints and martyrs. Father Patrick's voice, steady yet heavy with unspoken pain, carries through the silence as he prays for Agnes Harper, age 65, a wise mentor with a gentle laugh, Helen Brooks, 61, whose hymns filled hearts with peace, Margaret Cole, 49, a teacher of boundless patience, Laura Evans, 41, whose charity fed the hungry, Clara Dunn, 36, a healer with a quiet strength, Elizabeth Sullivan, 34, his radiant sister whose faith inspired his own, and Ruth Turner, 28, the youngest, whose joy lit up the darkest days. Each name echoes like a bell, stirring memories among the congregation. Parishioners fill the pews, their faces etched with shared sorrow. Mrs. Carter, an elderly widow with trembling hands, approaches Father Patrick after the Mass, her eyes misty. "Agnes taught my daughter to read," she whispers, clutching a worn prayer book. "Elizabeth, she was your sister, wasn't she?" Patrick nods, his throat tightening. He recalls Elizabeth's laughter, her fierce devotion, and the letter she sent before the retreat, promising to pray for him. That promise now feels like a chain, binding him to a truth he cannot ignore. As the congregation disperses, Father Patrick lingers by the altar, his gaze fixed on a flickering candle. The weight of 20 years presses against his chest. 20 years of unanswered questions, of sleepless nights haunted by Elizabeth's face. He remembers her final words to him. "God has a plan, Patrick. Trust it." But trust has worn thin, eroded by the silence of the Bighorn Forest. Yet, as he clasps his rosary, a spark ignites within him, a resolve to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Something stir enrolled in him, a whisper of hope or perhaps a divine call, urging him toward the forest where his sister vanished. The journey to answers has begun, and Father Patrick knows he cannot turn back. Father Patrick retreats to the quiet of his office at St. Luke's, the weight of the memorial mass still clinging to him like damp autumn air. The room, lined with books and faded icons, feels like a sanctuary, but it cannot shield him from the ache of memory. On his desk lies a small wooden box, its edges worn smooth by years of handling. Inside are photographs, fragile relics of a life before the darkness of 2003. He lifts a 1995 snapshot of Elizabeth at her final vows, her face radiant with purpose under her novice veil. Her smile pierces him, stirring a familiar guilt. Did his pride in her calling blind him to unseen dangers? He traces her image, whispering, "I should have been there, Liz." Another photo, creased and yellowed, shows the 7 nuns at St. Jerome's retreat house in 2002. Agnes Harper stands tall, her gaze steady. Helen Brooks clasps a hymn book. Margaret Cole's laughter seems to echo. Laura Evans kneels in prayer. Clara Dunn's gentle eyes shine. Ruth Turner beams with youthful joy. And Elizabeth, his sister, glows at the center, her faith a quiet fire. The serenity captured here feels like a lie, mocking the tragedy that followed. A memory surfaces, sharp and vivid, through the words of Ruth Haskell, the former caretaker of St. Jerome's. In a 2002 flashback, she recalls the convent's warmth. Agnes sharing tea with parishioners, Elizabeth sketching wildflowers in her journal, Ruth Turner humming as she polished pews. Ruth's voice trembles as she admits missing subtle signs, a stranger lingering near the retreat, a delivery van parked too long. I should have asked questions, she says, her regret a heavy stone. Her stories weave a tapestry of the nuns' lives, binding past to present and deepening the mystery of their loss. Father Patrick closes the box, his fingers lingering on its lid. These photographs are more than memories. They are a call to action. The nuns' faces, frozen in time, urge him to dig deeper, to uncover what the Bighorn Forest hides. A faint resolve hardens in his chest, like an ember glowing brighter. He cannot let their story end in silence. The past is not buried. It is alive, whispering clues, and he must listen. The Wyoming dawn breaks cold and gray, casting long shadows over Father Patrick Sullivan's truck as he drives toward the Bighorn National Forest. The road twists through rugged hills, each curve tightening the knot in his chest. 20 years ago, his sister Elizabeth and 6 other nuns vanished here, swallowed by the forest's secrets. Now, in October 2023, a restless pull, part instinct, part prayer, guides him back to the site of St. Jerome's retreat house, where answers might lie buried. He parks near a rusted gate, its iron bars guarding a property that feels more like a fortress than a forgotten retreat. The air hums with the scent of pine and earth, but an unnatural stillness cloaks the land. Father Patrick clutches his rosary, murmuring a prayer for courage, his breath visible in the chilly morning. The forest looms, its trees like silent sentinels, hiding truths he's chased for decades. He steps out, boots crunching on gravel, and spots a faded sign. Private property, no trespassing. The warning feels personal, as if the land itself dares him to turn back. Ruth Haskell, the former caretaker of St. Jerome's, meets him at the gate, her face lined with years of regret. "This place isn't what it was," she says, her voice low. She reveals that Marcus Tate, a reclusive businessman, bought the land in 2005 and razed the chapel, leaving no trace of its sacred past. Ruth's eyes darken as she recounts Tate's deception. He hired out-of-state contractors, called the demolition estate upgrades, and dismissed complaints of construction noise as seismic activity. Clearwater's small size and the site's cursed reputation, whispered tales of hauntings, helped him evade scrutiny. No one questioned him, Ruth admits, her hands trembling. "I should have." Father Patrick's gaze traces the horizon, where the chapel once stood. The erasure feels like a second betrayal, as if the nun's memory was swept away with the rubble. He walks the gate's perimeter, his fingers brushing cold iron, searching for a way in. The forest watches, its silence heavy with secrets. Ruth's words echo in his mind. Tate's secrecy, the town's blindness, the nun's unanswered cries. A spark of defiance flares within him. If answers lie beyond this gate, he'll find them, no matter what lies in wait. The road to the past is not just a path through the forest, it's a descent into truth, and Father Patrick feels its pull, sharp and unyielding. Something, perhaps Elizabeth's prayers, perhaps God's hand, urges him forward. He cannot stop now. The gate looms, a barrier to answers, and he knows crossing it will change everything. Father Patrick Sullivan stands before the rusted gate of Marcus Tate's property, the Bighorn National Forest stretching vast and silent around him. The October sky hangs heavy, gray clouds promising snow, mirroring the storm brewing in his heart. His rosary beads click softly as he whispers, "Lord, light my path." The words a shield against the dread of trespassing. The eerie hum of Salve Regina from his truck's radio lingers, a haunting echo that feels like Elizabeth's voice calling him forward. Hope and fear collide. Could she still be here after 20 years? Or is he chasing ghosts, too late to save her? He circles the perimeter, boots crunching on frost-kissed leaves, the forest's silence pressing against him like a held breath. Near a jagged outcrop, he spots a weakened section of fence, its iron bars warped and sagging. His pulse quickens. Crossing himself, he murmurs, "Forgive my sins, Lord," and pushes against the metal. It collapses with a sharp groan, opening a narrow breach. Stepping through, he feels like a thief stealing into sacred ground. Yet a divine pull, Elizabeth's prayers perhaps, urges him deeper. The former St. Jerome's retreat site is unrecognizable, its holy past erased by manicured lawns and gravel paths. No cross, no stone remains of the chapel. Its absence a wound to Father Patrick's faith. He moves cautiously, eyes scanning the sterile grounds, until a glint catches his attention. A rusted metal grate, half buried under a cluster of junipers. Kneeling, he brushes away dirt, heart pounding as a faint sound rises. A sacred hum, like Ave Maria, followed by a frail, rasping cough. This is no trick of the wind. Someone lives beneath. His hands tremble as he dials 911. Father Patrick Sullivan, at Marcus Tate's property off Route 16, near the old St. Jerome's, he says, voice urgent but low. There's a vent in the ground. I hear singing, coughing. Someone's trapped. The dispatcher hesitates. Are you there legally? Patrick's throat tightens. The fence broke. Please, it's urgent. Stay put, she replies. Officers are coming. Minutes later, deputies Sarah Collins and Mike Torres arrive, their cruiser skidding on gravel. Ruth Haskell, insisting on joining, steps out, her face pale as she surveys the transformed land. This isn't St. Jerome's, she whispers, voice thick with loss. Collins shines a flashlight through the grate, revealing a dark shaft. The Ave Maria grows clearer, a woman's voice fragile but unmistakable. That's human, Torres says, his eyes meeting Collins's. Ruth shakes her head. I worked here 15 years. No basement, no tunnels. Collins's jaw tightens. We need a warrant. This is bigger than we thought. The grate looms like a sealed tomb, its secrets humming just out of reach. Father Patrick's heart races. Answers lie below, and he's closer to Elizabeth than ever. But what horrors wait in the darkness? The Bighorn Forest hums with tension as deputies Sarah Collins and Mike Torres face Marcus Tate at his sprawling estate, just beyond the rusted grate where Father Patrick Sullivan heard the haunting Ave Maria. The October wind bites, carrying the scent of pine and unease. Tate, a wiry man with cold eyes, stands on his porch, arms crossed, his voice smooth but edged with defiance. There's nothing under my land, he insists, dismissing the deputy's questions about hidden structures. His calm facade feels like a mask, and Father Patrick, standing with Ruth Haskell at a distance, senses a darkness behind it. Collins, her gaze sharp, presses Tate about the altered St. Jerome site. Construction records show major work in 2005, she says, holding up a file. No permits, no inspections. Care to explain? Tate shrugs, claiming it was routine landscaping, but his fingers twitch, betraying unease. Torres steps closer, his tone firm. We've got a warrant. We're searching now. Tate's jaw tightens, but he steps aside, his silence louder than words. The deputies move to a shed near the grate, its weathered boards hiding a secret. Beneath the floor, a pry bar reveals a stone staircase descending into darkness. Father Patrick's heart pounds as he peers over Collins's shoulder, the air thick with damp earth and something fouler. The staircase leads to a tunnel, its walls rough-hewn, stretching toward an unseen chamber. Ruth gasps, her voice trembling. 15 years I worked there. No one built this. The truth dawns. Tate, a former construction engineer from Colorado, used his expertise to carve this hidden labyrinth. Working under cover of night with silenced machinery, his bribes to a local inspector bearing complaints. As the deputies descend, flashlight beams cutting through the gloom, Father Patrick clutches his rosary, whispering prayers for Elizabeth. The tunnel's oppressive weight feels like a tomb, yet the faint echo of a hymn lingers, fueling his hope. Collins radios for backup, her voice steady but urgent. We found a passage. It's deep, looks intentional. The search confirms Tate's deception. A meticulously planned prison, hidden for decades. Its existence a betrayal of Clearwater's trust. Back on the surface, Tate's composure cracks as deputies cuff him. his eyes darting to the shed. Father Patrick meets his gaze, searching for remorse, but finding only a void. The tunnel below holds answers, perhaps Elizabeth herself, but also horrors. Ruth, her face pale, whispers, "What kind of man does this?" The question hangs unanswered as the forest watches, its secrets unraveling. Father Patrick's resolve hardens. The truth is near, but its cost looms like a shadow over the sacred ground. The deputies' flashlights pierce the damp darkness of the tunnel beneath Marcus Tate's property, revealing a narrow passage carved from Bighorn's bedrock. The air is thick with decay, each step heavier than the last. At the tunnel's end, a crude wooden door groans open, exposing a small chamber etched with desperation. Rough carvings of crosses and saints adorn the walls, lit by the flicker of police lights. A burned-out candle, its wax a frozen cascade, sits on a makeshift table. On a thin mattress lies a frail figure, clutching a rosary of twine and wood scraps, her face gaunt but defiant. "I am Sister Elizabeth Sullivan," she whispers, her voice a fragile thread, eyes squinting against the sudden light. Father Patrick, watching via body cam on his phone, collapses to his knees, a sun tearing through him. "Elizabeth?" He chokes, tears streaming as the deputy's footage pans to a shadowed corner. Skeletal remains draped in a tattered blanket lie on another mattress. "Clara," Elizabeth murmurs, her voice breaking. "She's with God now." Later searches uncover more remains in nearby chambers. Agnes, Helen, Margaret, Laura, and Ruth, Elizabeth confirms. Their lives extinguished in captivity, their bones a silent testament to years of torment. Paramedics lift Elizabeth onto a stretcher, her emaciated frame nearly lost beneath a blanket. Yet her grip on the rosary remains unyielding. Outside, under the cold glow of police lights, Father Patrick meets her gaze, eyes dimmed by decades of darkness, but alive with a spark he knows. Her frail hand finds his, tracing a faint circle on his palm, a childhood ritual from Wyoming summers. "Patrick," she breathes, "you found me." His tears fall as he feels her pulse, weak but stubborn. "God kept me," she says, her faith a beacon through the horror, humbling his own. Marcus Tate's arrest unfolds above, his defiance crumbling as deputies seize his journals from the mansion. The pages reveal a twisted vendetta, a childhood scarred by an aunt who joined a convent, abandoning him to a brutal foster system. Posing as a delivery man in 2003, he drugged the nuns' tea, herding them into this hidden prison through a maintenance tunnel. After buying the land in 2005, he built the chambers, bribing officials to bury his tracks. His meticulous cruelty, a monument to hatred, chills the deputy's resolve. Elizabeth's survival is a miracle, but the loss of 6 sisters cuts deep. Father Patrick kneels beside her stretcher, whispering, "Thank you, Lord, for her light." The tunnel's horrors linger, a scar on Clearwater's soul, but Elizabeth's faith, unbroken through decades, ignites a fragile hope. What lies ahead for her and for the town that failed her? Clearwater reels in the wake of the chilling discovery beneath Marcus Tate's land, the town's quiet streets now pulsing with chaos. News vans choke Main Street, their cameras hungry for the story of the nuns' hidden prison. St. Luke's Catholic Church becomes a beacon for mourners, its steps buried under flowers, candles, and handwritten prayers for the 6 lost sisters and Elizabeth Sullivan's survival. Father Patrick Sullivan stands before his congregation at Sunday Mass, his voice steady despite the grief carving lines into his face. "We lift up Elizabeth's healing in the souls of Agnes, Helen, Margaret, Laura, Clara, and Ruth," he says, urging faith in the face of betrayal. The pews, overflowing with townsfolk, hum with whispered amens, a fragile thread of unity. Each day, Father Patrick visits Elizabeth at Sheridan Memorial Hospital, where Dr. Emily Chen oversees her fragile recovery. She's malnourished, With old fractures and a weakened immune system, Chen explains, her voice calm but heavy. Her eyes struggle with light, but she's fighting. In her hospital bed, Elizabeth clutches her makeshift rosary, its twine beads a lifeline through decades of darkness. She asks about St. Luke's, her voice soft but eager. Stand strong, Patrick assures, his eyes misting as he sees her spirit unbroken. Over quiet hours, she shares fragments of her ordeal, years sustained by prayer, carving crosses to mark time, comforting Clara until her final breath, and mourning the others, Agnes, Helen, Margaret, Laura, Ruth, whose absences haunted her. Marcus Tate's trial grips the nation, broadcast live from Sheridan County Courthouse. His journals, cold and meticulous, expose a man consumed by vengeance, targeting nuns for his aunt's abandonment to a cruel foster system. He shows no remorse, his gaze like ice as prosecutors detail his 2003 abduction in secret chambers. Sentenced to life without parole, Tate's fate offers little comfort to Clearwater, where trust lies shattered. The town grapples with its failure to see the truth sooner, a wound as raw as the forest's scars. In St. Luke's chapel, Father Patrick kneels, the altar's candlelight casting soft shadows. Elizabeth's survival is a miracle, her faith a mirror to his own doubts. Yet the loss of 6 nuns and Clearwater's blindness gnaw at him. Thank you, Lord, for her return, he prays, voice breaking. The pain lingers, but hope, like Wyoming's wildflowers after winter, begins to bloom. Elizabeth's light, unbroken, calls the town to heal. But can they forgive themselves for the years lost to silence? Clearwater's heart beats with a fragile unity in the aftermath of Marcus Tate's horrors. The town gathers nightly for candlelit vigils outside St. Luke's Catholic Church, where hundreds, including families of the lost nuns, join hands under a starlit Wyoming sky. A special mass led by Father Patrick Sullivan fills the church to its rafters, the air thick with incense and whispered prayers for Agnes, Helen, Margaret, Laura, Clara, Ruth, and Elizabeth's healing. The congregation's voices rise in a hymn, a trembling chorus binding grief to hope, as flowers pile higher on the church steps. At Pinewood Cafe, the town's pulse, locals huddle over coffee, their voices low as they unravel Tate's enigma. Always kept to himself, says Tom Grayson, a grizzled mechanic recalling Tate's curt nods and shadow gaze. Others studies share uneasy memories. His rare visits to town, always in a hurry, his truck loaded with odd supplies. A 2003 flashback from Ruth Haskell, the former caretaker of St. Jerome's, cuts through the chatter. She recounts her futile search that winter, combing the retreat's grounds after the nuns vanished. I found nothing but snow, she says, her voice heavy. But Margaret gave me a Psalms book before they left. Said it'd guide me. The memory of Margaret's gentle smile lingers, a light in the darkness, stirring Ruth's resolve. Inspired, Ruth announces her plan to write a memoir, a testament to the nuns' lives and legacy. They weren't just names, she tells the cafe crowd, her eyes fierce with purpose. They were our sisters, our teachers. Their story can't fade. Her words ripple through the room, igniting nods and murmurs of support. The memoir becomes a beacon, a way to honor the nuns and ensure Clearwater never forgets. Ruth's role as a bridge between past and present grows stronger, her memories weaving the town's fractured spirit back together. Father Patrick, listening from a corner booth, feels a spark of pride for Ruth's courage. He carries the weight of the town's sorrow, yet sees its strength in these gatherings. The vigils, the mass, Ruth's memoir, they are stitches in a wound still bleeding. As he steps outside, the cold air bites, but the glow of candles warms the night. Clearwater is healing slowly, but the scars run deep. The nuns' legacy calls the town to rise, to remember. But can they rebuild trust in a place tainted by such betrayal? The truth of Marcus Tate's crimes sends shockwaves through Clearwater, but the sheriff's office digs deeper, unearthing a web of deceit that stains the town's past. In a cluttered evidence room, deputies Sarah Collins and Mike Torres sift through Tate's construction records, grainy photos, and handwritten notes, each piece a shard of the nun's lost years. The documents reveal a chilling precision: blueprints for the underground chambers, dated 2005, and receipts for silenced machinery hidden behind false invoices. The investigation exposes systemic failures in 2003, when initial searches of St. Jerome's retreat were dismissed as inconclusive due to jurisdictional oversights and a distracted sheriff's department. At a packed press conference outside the Sheridan County Courthouse, Sheriff Linda Hayes names two complicit officials: Ronald Decker, former planning director, and Ellen Travis, an environmental inspector. Between 2005 and 2007, they ignored reports of Tate's construction, pocketing bribes disguised as consulting fees. Decker, now retired, faces charges of corruption. Travis is suspended, her career in tatters. "We failed those women," Hayes admits, her voice heavy with accountability. The crowd, a mix of reporters and locals, murmurs in anger and shame, their trust in the system fractured. The revelation stings Clearwater, a town unaccustomed to such betrayal, its small size no longer a shield, but a vulnerability. Father Patrick Sullivan watches the broadcast from St. Luke's Rectory, his heart a tangle of relief and sorrow. The truth is surfacing, but each detail, a bribed official, a missed clue, deepens the pain of the nun's lost decades. He thinks of Elizabeth, now recovering in the hospital, her frail frame a testament to survival, and the 6 others who never returned. The town's failure to act sooner gnaws at him, a guilt shared by many. Yet the investigation's progress offers a flicker of justice, a chance to honor the nun's memory. Clearwater begins planning a memorial near St. Luke's, a garden with 7 stones to bear the names of Agnes, Helen, Margaret, Laura, Clara, Ruth, and Elizabeth. Father Patrick meets with community leaders, their faces etched with determination to reclaim their town's soul. "This isn't just for them," says Mrs. Carter, clutching a rosary. "It's for us, to remember who we are." The memorial becomes a symbol of redemption, a step toward healing. But questions linger, sharp as Wyoming's winter winds. How many others knew of Tate's secrets? Could the nuns have been saved sooner? Father Patrick carries these doubts as he walks St. Luke's grounds, the church's spire piercing the dusk. The investigation has uncovered truth, but not closure. The town stands at a crossroads. Will it rebuild or crumble under the weight of its past? Spring 2024 bathes Clearwater in soft light, the Wyoming hills blooming with wildflowers as Elizabeth Sullivan steps from Sheridan Memorial Hospital, her frail frame steadied by Father Patrick Sullivan's arm. The town gathers at St. Luke's Catholic Church, its steps lined with parishioners whose cheers weave with tears. Mrs. Carter, her hands trembling, but smile radiant, offers Elizabeth a bouquet of lupines, their purple hues echoing the fields of their childhood. Inside the church, Elizabeth speaks, her voice a whisper yet resolute. "Your prayers carried me," she says, eyes shining. "God's love endures, even in the dark." The congregation rises, their applause a tide of hope, washing over the scars of the past. Father Patrick watches, his heart swelling with a joy tempered by loss. Elizabeth's return is a miracle, a chance to mend their bond, frayed by 20 years of absence. He arranges her stay at St. Luke's Convent, where the sisters embrace her with quiet warmth, their prayers a soft cocoon. Over weeks, he sits by her side, reading psalms and sharing memories of catching fireflies in Wyoming summers, of Elizabeth's stubborn debates over scripture under starlit skies. Her resilience humbles him, her faith a lighthouse through his doubts. "God's timing is perfect," she says one afternoon, her voice gaining strength. "He sent you when I needed you most." Clearwater begins to heal, though the wound of betrayal lingers. A memorial garden takes shape near St. Luke's. 7 stones engraved with the names of Agnes, Helen, Margaret, Laura, Clara, Ruth, and Elizabeth, a testament to their enduring light. Father Patrick works with the diocese to secure Elizabeth's care, ensuring her future in the community she once served. At night, he walks the church grounds, the silence no longer heavy, but alive with promise. Elizabeth's survival has rekindled the town's spirit, a spark of grace in a place shadowed by guilt. In the chapel, Father Patrick kneels before the altar, its candlelight flickering like a heartbeat. "Thank you, Lord, for her strength," he prays, his voice steady but soft. The pain of the lost nuns remains, a quiet ache, but Elizabeth's presence is a new dawn. Clearwater is rebuilding, its faith tested but unbroken. Yet, as the town looks forward, a question lingers. Can Elizabeth's light guide them to fully embrace this new beginning? Or will the shadows of the past still hold sway? Autumn 2024 paints Clearwater in hues of gold and amber. 6 months after Elizabeth Sullivan's miraculous return, Father Patrick Sullivan leads her to a quiet corner of St. Luke's garden, where a young oak stands tall, its roots anchoring a memorial to the 7 nuns. The Wyoming sunset casts a warm glow, the air alive with the rustle of leaves and the promise of healing. They kneel, rosaries in hand, their prayers a silent duet for Agnes, Helen, Margaret, Laura, Clara, Ruth, and Elizabeth's enduring faith. "Lord, thank you for guiding me through the dark," Elizabeth begins, her voice soft but steady, a testament to her unbroken spirit. Father Patrick joins, his eyes tracing her profile, still frail yet radiant with purpose. After the Our Father, she pauses, her fingers brushing the twine rosary she's carried since her captivity. "Patrick," she says, voice trembling, "there's something I kept silent." He leans closer, heart racing. "In those final years, Clara held my hand one night and said, 'Elizabeth, you'll walk in light again. Someone you love will find you, and you'll carry our story.' I thought it was just hope, but Clara spoke with a prophet's certainty." Patrick's breath catches, tears brimming. "She saw me coming," he whispers, voice thick with awe. Elizabeth nods, her eyes glistening. "In weeks before you found me, I dreamed of a meadow, wildflowers everywhere. The sisters stood there, Agnes, Helen, Margaret, Laura, Ruth, Clara, smiling. At peace, it was God's promise they're with him." Her words weave a thread of grace through the pain, binding past to present. He takes her hand, feeling the strength in her fragile fingers. "You carried their light," he says, "and now it shines for all." Elizabeth's smile, tinged with sorrow and hope, mirrors the sunset. "I want to share their story, Patrick," and she says, "not just for Clearwater, but for anyone lost in darkness, needing faith to guide them." Father Patrick nods, a new purpose settling in his chest. The nun's legacy lives on, not in tragedy, but in resilience. As they rise, the oak's leaves sway, a living monument to the sisters' light. Clearwater has changed, scarred but stronger, its faith rekindled by Elizabeth's survival. The town will carry their story forward, a beacon for those facing their own shadows. Patrick looks to the horizon where dusk meets dawn and knows the darkness has not won.